Harrison, and I'm thrilled to have a guest with me today. I have Victoria Grady. She is an associate professor of organizational behavior in Northern Virginia, and her body of work really focuses on change management, which is an area that I'm very passionate about. She really focuses on how individual behaviors and the change process can impact culture and organizational performance. She is a published author. She's published several books. She's been published in HBR, and she's a frequent speaker on the national stage. And most important to me, she is a great thought partner with me. So I've asked her to join us, and we're going to do a three-part series. And the first piece is on the Change Diagnostic, which is something that she has developed to help organizations figure out where they are on the change spectrum. So welcome.
Thank you so much, Alice Gray. I'm so happy to be here with you today and chatting a little bit about the work that I've done over the last 15 years, but also the work that we are hoping to do as we move forward and work on our partnership and its evolution. So thanks again for inviting me to be part of this.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. So like I said, you have this Change Diagnostic. Can you share with us what it is and how it was developed?
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's start with what it is. So the Change Diagnostic is designed to specifically address change readiness within an organization. We created this out of a prompt when I finished my dissertation from folks who said, that's awesome that you've addressed this theory and created a model inside of your dissertation. But Victoria, if you can't measure what you're talking about, it isn't really going to help anybody. And I thought, well, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
Right.
totally did, right? So we decided to go ahead and develop the assessment that would help us understand what change readiness looks like inside of an organization. What we did is we started with a series of questions and a process, an iterative process that allowed us to test questions in different populations and then refine those questions with a validity perspective all along. So we wanted to make sure that content and context validity were at the top of our list in terms of making sure that what we were saying that we were measuring, we actually were. And that was a really important part of it, because a lot of times you might see assessments or survey materials that are just a list of questions that were the thoughts of the folks in the organization, which is fine, but that's not what we wanted. We wanted a validated, statistically significant assessment that really allowed us to say, this is what we're measuring, and this is what you can do with what we're measuring.
So it's more than just a gut reaction of how you think the organization is approaching change, which I think that is really interesting, because a lot of us think we understand, but we don't have a tool to really figure out. And there isn't an organization in the US right now that isn't going through some sort of change and will continue to go through change. So how would an accounting firm use this to implement effective change, or any professional services firm?
That's a great question. And I love the way you set up that question by acknowledging that what we think we know isn't always the reality, right? I love that. And I especially love that when we administer our assessment and we chat with the leadership in advance of the results and kind of get a sense for what they think the organization is going to say as a result of the questions, and then it's totally different, right? It's not what they expected at all, and I think that may be the best kind of data, right? Because it really informs that custom perspective.
And so with that information, then an organization can kind of figure out where it is on the spectrum, or where certain departments are, so that when they are implementing a new management tool or a new process or, any type of change, really, a merger or acquisition. Is the
Absolutely.
organization ready for it? And how are they going to manage through the change? It just really sets you up for success as you go into a change.
It does. And Alice Gray, I love what you said. And I'll share with you that I in my MBA classes, one of the things that I always tell the students is that we often think that we can just choose a model or a framework for change off the shelf. And I think that's fine as a guide, but it should not be the way the organization integrates all the process up and down, right? There should
Right,
be a really, really defined effort to understand that you have the framework, but then that you dig in and you administer an assessment like our Change Diagnostic that can tell you what you should do with that framework and how it should fit together. And let me give you a quick example. So we
okay.
were working with an organization in the federal government that had a very specific, they loved Cotter. So Cotter is one of those change management models that
Yes,
a lot of folks, the 8
yes.
steps of Cotter, they know exactly what that is. And what we realized in that organization is that those steps aligned with where we needed to go, but the steps in the order that Cotter has them didn't work for that organization
Oh,
because
wow.
yeah, it was really cool because the real-time data told us that creating that sense of urgency before you had a guiding coalition was a recipe for disaster because
Huh,
that just the ambient level of angst and morale challenges inside that organization just weren't, that wasn't the way to do it, right? To
right.
really get that change to go forward and to be implemented in a successful way, we had to flip around a few of the steps. That didn't mean that the framework wasn't fantastic and it didn't do the job. We just couldn't do it in that order.
That's a great example. Well, thank you for joining me today to talk about the Change Diagnostic. Victoria and I are ready to go to market. We're bringing this tool to market, and we'd love to talk with you about any change your organization's going through. In the next part, we're going to talk about burnout, which is a huge topic today. It continues. I think it was a topic before the pandemic. It really surged during the pandemic, and now it's continuing today. So we look forward to talking again in our next installment. See you then.